everybody, it's Alexa, and I'm really excited because just a few days ago, our car crossed the 300,000 mile mark. Now, that is just amazing. It's the longest I've ever had a car last, and I wanted to share with you 7 ways that we have made our car last over 300,000 miles. So first, let me just celebrate by showing you my odometer. So there it is. I wanted to take a video when it switched over, and I was out on a gig in Sausalito, and when I got to the gig, it was at 299,996. So it was only 4 miles from switching over, and I said, when we leave the gig, we have to remember to check it and then film it as it switches over, but of course we forgot. So now we've driven another 79 miles, amazingly, since that time. But let me go over these 7 points for how to make your car last as long as this one has. The first thing that I think is key to having a car last over 300,000 miles is to have a Japanese car. I've owned Hondas, Mitsubishi, Toyota, Nissan, Isuzu. They last forever. They really do. And so I think the Japanese cars are key. However, American trucks, the real big American trucks, they also seem to last really long. And I had a straight 64 Chevy for a long time that with a column shifter. It was real sweet, and that thing was built like a tank. Of course, it only got 14 miles to the gallon, but it lasted a really long time as well. So I do think American trucks may last for a long time, but really your best bet is going to be, and I've seen some Volvos, looks like Volvos can last a long time, but the Japanese cars, just for in terms of how long they will last and for the, you know, the economy of having it, and I'll get into that in a few more points, they're just an unbeatable combination. Point number 2 that I credit having this big long-lasting car to is oil changes. If we have a religion, it is oil changes, and we change them every 3,000 miles. I'm looking up at the sticker on my windshield. There it is. When am I supposed to change it next? Oh, I'm supposed to change it next at 302,166. So yeah, we change it every 3,000 miles religiously, and I mean, that's the key. So we've owned this car, and because it switched over, I decided to check, well, when did we get this car? Because we always argue about it, and we can never remember. So I found the title, and because I also wanted to figure out how much we put on it. So I found the title, and we had bought this car exactly 10 years ago. When we bought it, it was 88,000 miles. So we have put 211,000 roughly, or 12,000 miles on the car since buying it. And what that means is that we've been driving roughly 20,000 miles or 21 or 22,000 miles a year in it. So that's been our only car for quite some time now. We've had other cars, and there may have been a period where we had 2 cars, I can't remember. We had a string of bad luck with cars. I've also owned new cars. We've also owned some new cars. We bought a brand new Ford Focus, and we also bought a brand new Chevy S10. And so having purchased brand new American cars, never purchased a brand new car of any other kind, but having purchased those, you know, I've discovered what they mean about resale value, because you finish paying $15,000 and then the thing is worthless. I know that because my Ford Focus was declared worthless about 2-3 months after I finished paying off the thing, you know, for 5 years. And, you know, to realize that the thing that you just paid off is not even worth, you know, $5,000, and you just finished paying off $15,000 or whatever it was, is pretty disturbing. So oil changes, point number 2. You got to get the oil changes. If you don't get the oil changes, forget about it. Okay, so the third thing that I really credit our success to is having a good mechanic and having a good relationship with him. So our mechanic is kind of this crazy guy. He never fixes anything unless I basically beg him to. So he's the opposite of, you know, those mechanics, and they're always trying to get you to do something more expensive. Well, that's what I absolutely trust this guy, because every time something has gone wrong, he knows exactly what it is. He fixes it, and it's done. It's perfect. Now, at 240,000 miles, our transmission failed. And also, this is the first automatic we've ever owned. We've always had sticks. And so this is an automatic transmission. So for this automatic transmission to go to 240,000 miles is in itself pretty amazing. And I'll get into it later, but there's some karma that has to do with that as well. The next point is, and my mechanic has told this to me many times, cheap parts. You know, when you have a Japanese car, the parts are cheap. And sometimes I'll mention to him, I'll be like, oh, maybe I should get, I mean, I remember telling him probably about 100,000 miles ago, I remember saying, you know, how much longer is this car going to last? And he's like, oh, you know, it's going to last a really long time. And he said, you know, he'd be like, a new car, too many problems, you know, old car, much better. And he would say, and then I would say, well, what about a Kia? What about this? What about that? And he'd be like, oh, you know, Korean car, no good, you know. He'd say that the you know, it's all about the parts. And so when we replaced our transmission at 240,000 miles, we got a used Japanese transmission. And so, you know, 60,000 miles later, it seems to be going fine. You know, maybe that's going to go. But again, the cost of replacing the transmission plus a couple other things, it was about $2,000. I can't even come close to buying a car, another car to replace this one that would be as reliable as this one for $2,000. So there you go. So, you know, I'd rather put the money into this since I can trust it. So that brings me to the question of the older car. And a lot of people, and I love cars, I really do. I think cars are great. I've done some work as an auto mechanic, and I've had all kinds of classic cars and even rebuilt some engines in my day. And I don't like having my fingers all dirty, though haven't done it in a long time. But the thing about cars is, new cars is that, you know, they're getting more and more complex. And so, you know, ideally what you want to get is a car that's, in my estimation, between 10 and 20 years old. The older cars, there's just less that can go wrong with them. Also, a lot of the big maintenance, if you get it from a good owner, they've paid for some of those big, hairy maintenances that you get from the dealer, you know, and I can't remember because I haven't had a new car in so long, but I don't know if there's a 50,000 mile maintenance or 100,000 mile maintenance, you know, or 10, 25,000 mile maintenance. But you know, there's some of those scary big maintenances. You go to the dealer and it's like $5,000 or $7,000 later. Whew, I don't miss that stuff at all. And I don't miss dealing with a dealer. Ugh, that's the worst. Mechanics at dealerships and piano salesmen. These are two groups of people you should avoid at all costs. Just joking, but piano salesmen really are quite dishonest. The next point is maintenance. And while you're doing maintenance, you know, we haven't been that religious about the maintenance, and we've let a lot of things slide. And on some level, this kind of is a rattle bucket. Part of it has to do with, you know, we have dogs, we have kids, so we travel, we camp, so, you know, we just need it to get us from point A to point B. And while you're, you know, doing the maintenance, I think it's crucial to have another vehicle. In our case, our other vehicles are bicycles. And not to make myself sound so incredibly you know, environmentalist, it's really my husband who commutes by bicycle more. But I'm trying to up my game, especially now that the car is getting to be quite old, and I know there's going to be a lot more maintenance involved. I need to just get on my bike much more. And it's so pleasurable to ride your bike. You just feel like a badass when you're on your bike. So I need to do that more. But the point being that if you understand that there are alternative methods of transportation, you know, there's you can rent a car, there's car sharing, and they're coming up with newer and newer really cool things that you can do. Like Enterprise now has car sharing, and they also have rental where they'll actually drop the car off at your house. I haven't done that, but I think that's pretty darn cool. You know, then you become less precious about your car, and you get more of a sense of like, we can get through this. I mean, when we needed the transmission, we didn't have $2,000 saved up, but we were able to park the car in front of the house and ride bikes and do other things for 2 months until we had the money, and then we paid for the transmission, and it's been golden ever since. And this car has been to Mexico 2 times. It's been up and down California. It's been all through the wilderness. You know, it's just a blessing. So that gets me to my last point, and I believe, yeah, this is point number 7, gratitude. And that's really what I feel. I mean, our car has a name, and she has a personality, and it became more and more obvious to me the longer I've had her, how much she protects us and gets us from, you know, to place, and she never lets me down. Like when my transmission was failing, I was in Los Angeles, and it was a very exciting time because we were down there and we were winning the Grammy and attending conferences and all this stuff. And I'm with another musician, and I kept on saying, my car's making this noise, I think the transmission's going. And he, being a musician, has zero knowledge about cars. And he's like, no, your car's fine. Well, I knew something was wrong. But I got through Los Angeles, finished the week out, turn around, drive home, get in front of my house, park in front of my house, and clunk. That was it. That was the end of the transmission. And it wasn't going any farther. And I just thought, what an incredible blessing. You know, it literally drove me right to the front of my house, and then it stopped working. It was perfect. So I have just a ton of gratitude for this car. I love its size. It's small, so I can park it in small little places in San Francisco, which is huge. It's perfect for a musician because it's a gas saver, and yet it also you know, is rugged. So I just love it. And intentionally, I'm not telling you exactly which car I have, but because it doesn't really matter. I think, like I said, you can see on YouTube, there's a number of videos of people who've made their cars last a really long time. And years ago, my brother had said to me, at some point when I was less grateful than I am now, people go through really hard things, you know, like having your little kid have leukemia and you know, having brain cancer and things like that, and in the scheme of that, you know, having an old car really pales in comparison. So a lot of water's gone under the bridge since those days. And I remember complaining about my car and saying how old it was, and my brother said, well, you know, there's something called the Million Mile Club. Now, I'd never heard of the Million Mile Club, but I'll tell you what, that just totally inspired me. So who knows if it'll happen, but part of me kind of feels like this car could make it to the Million Mile Club. My mechanic seems to think she'll make it to 500 easily. And right now, she desperately needs the wheel bearings to be replaced, at least on one wheel. So that's one thing that has to happen in the near immediate future. But like I said, having gone through these 7 points, I'm confident that we can get through whatever she needs, and that she will continue to carry us nobly from point A to point B. So here's to making your car last forever. Good luck, and let me know if your car lasted forever and what you did to make it do so, because I would love tips. This is the first car I've ever had that lasted 300,000 miles. It's amazing. All right, thanks for listening. Bye. Oh, and a bonus tip that I wanted to mention, if you want your car to last 300,000 miles and you live in an urban area, you must protect it from theft. You know, I've had cars stolen, I've had my battery stolen, but at the same time, I've been in situations where I was certain my car or the contents of my car would get stolen, and it didn't happen. So you really never know when it could go, but it's good to be prepared and use the club, because the older Japanese cars are easier to steal and they're in demand, so by thieves. So that's a good reason to protect them.